right into the action. I would love to see that Landorus have a little bit more playtime when it comes to how Chinwei decides to navigate with that Pokemon. But let's go ahead and see what the leads are. Landorus and Grimmsnarl coming out for Chinwei, and Enrique leading with that Venusaur and that Incineroar.
Well, you wanted Landorus, and you get it. I think both trainers keying into exactly what they needed, which was make sure there's an Intimidate available in the lead. Of course, Intimidate's a little bit different in the form of Incineroar and Landorus, respectively. Incineroar able to provide that fake-out pressure, which could force that Landorus away, and that Landorus, gets intimidated. We've seen a lot of players, not just in this format, in previous formats as well, be very respectful of once your Landorus gets intimidated, being able to back it up and back it out, make sure that it's coming in at full force, and that may be something that Enrique wants to capitalize on. That said, Chinwei's got the Grimmsnarl on the field and could start setting up those screens a little bit earlier than Enrique has the option to. But a pivot out, more Pokemon getting very similar here.
Yeah, ooh. One Grimmsnarl comes in, a Venusaur goes out, and a Venusaur comes back in onto the field. Chinwei also just going to make a full swap here, bringing in the Zacian as well, immediately revealing all 4 Pokemon brought to this game number 1.
Definitely unhappy with the lead, just trying to make sure that that all gets fixed. No Torkoal there, so the only Sun available is going to be if Enrique has his Groudon, and that gives Enrique good knowledge that there's no Torkoal, there's no way to set that up. He does have the Groudon, and he kind of gets to be smart about when he brings it. He gets to control when that Sun goes up, when that Chlorophyll gets activated for both of the Venusaur in this game. So I think that gives him a little bit of an upper hand in this one, and he's not revealed all 4 of his Pokemon yet. So nicely done when it comes to just controlling that board. But Chinwei, not exactly in a bad position. The Grimmsnarls, leaving, did have the option to set up some screens kind of freely and just decided against that. Chinwei's going to have to do some switching, I think, make sure his Venusaur's at full power. I think both trainers are just going to have to be really respectful of those stat drops potentially coming through. If they're getting stats dropped and they're attacking into these reflects and light screens, it's going to be an absolute nightmare to get damage down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can just go ahead and see that exactly as you called it, Adam. Chinwei is going to preserve that Venusaur for later, bringing in Grimmsnarl again into its place. And then we have another revolving door of Pokemon as Incineroar comes in for Enrique to be able to drop that attack stat of that Zacian on Chinwei's side.
It's all about the stat drops. It's all about pivoting. So we'll see exactly how this one goes. The Zacian, though, is going to try and attack even with its attack lowered.
Yeah, not going to be doing too much with that Behemoth Blade because it's not very effective onto an Incineroar. But I also feel like this puts Enrique into a pretty good position where now you have some fake out pressure, you're also pressuring down that Zacian with a Flare Blitz, and you might just be forcing Chinwei into another position where they do have to pivot Pokemon once again. So I would love to see kind of how Enrique is going to play around this because Chinwei did not bring a Sunsetter. That Torkoal is not in his party. So it's kind of all on the onus of Enrique to figure out when we, if at all, are going to set the sun with that Groudon.
It's going to be completely up to Enrique to bring the Drought, and there's no other way for it to get set up on Chinwei's side. So kind of going to be struggling to activate the Venusaur when he wants. Kind of has to do it when Enrique decides as well. This game, though, has been so low damage. Both trainers just dancing around it. Here's a potential problem for Enrique when we do get through to the Chlorophyll times when the sun finally comes through. It's going to be paralyzed, his Venusaur, so it's going to struggle a little bit. But this game, really low damage so far, as there's only been a little bit exchanged. A bit on the Incineroar, a bit on the Grimmsnarl. No big hits coming through right now, and not much being set up. Both players just jockeying for position.
I think that's exactly what you have to do in this position, though, is that you want to make sure that, especially because so many of the Pokemon on each team are similar, you have to make sure that you are in the best position possible in order to make as much use of those Pokemon as possible. For Enrique, I feel like because you do have the offensive power of the Groudon, you're kind of okay having your Venusaur in this position of it being paralyzed. And in fact, maybe that paralysis might not even matter, as we do see the Groudon come in and the drought get started. But Chinwei recognizes that this might be a time to use that Reflect and start mitigating that damage as a Sacred Sword comes through from Chinwei Zacian into the Groudon that switched in. Weather Ball, though.
This is the damage we've been looking for, I think. We've been talking about it for a while. It's not enough for a knockout, but it's still a good chunk down onto that Zacian. So nicely done there by Enrique to start getting a little advantage going. The Reflect going up, not the Light Screen there, so full damage on that one. I imagine the Light Screen soon to follow, though, to really start limiting this damage potential.
Yeah, I feel like this puts Chinwei also in a little bit of an awkward position because, yes, you would love to get your Venusaur in there that does have the speed advantage with that Chlorophyll and also not being paralyzed, but Enrique doing a really nice job of pivoting around here, recognizing that he's got the damage in with the Weather Ball that he could at that point in time, and now Incineroar can come back in and make sure that that Groudon is going to be very, very safe. However, Chinwei going for Protect on the Zacian instead of damage, as we see the second screen get set up for Chinwei here in that Light Screen.
Chinwei is going to be taking a whole lot less damage, but to work through that, I love this turn from Enrique. Knowing about the Zacian potentially protecting, doubles up on taking advantage of that. Getting the Incineroar in, getting another Intimidate down onto it, getting the Fake Out pressure on the board, and then, you know, being able to, play around it, because it is going to be unable to protect, or highly unlikely to protect at least, and this switch out could quite quickly get punished. The damage, of course, is going to be reduced, but I love this play. The Intimidate is important here from the Landorus, and this could be a good turn for Enrique, bringing that Landorus right back down to a lowered attack stat, as we saw the choice of move from the Incineroar.
Yeah, we will see the Precipice Blades first, which obviously is not going to affect that Landorus that just got switched in, as we do see a really nice attack coming out from that Grimmsnarl, but it's the Parting Shot. And this was a really heads-up play from Enrique to be able to choose that, just in case of something like a switch out, because Enrique kind of covered for both options. If you leave Zacian in, the Zacian is going to go down to the Precipice Blades if that attack connects. Otherwise, you have a great ability now to pivot around and just also make sure that whatever Pokemon is coming in for that Zacian's place is going to have its attack or special attack lowered.
Yeah, I think the Zacian had to leave there and not going for it with the obvious Fake Out. Nicely done by Enrique, saying you're going to switch it out. The Fake Out's not going to do anything of value anyway, so I'll just get your stats lowered, and I like that play. Knowing about the Landorus in the back, of course, every Pokemon revealed on both trainers' sides so far. No Dynamax is used either. Both trainers really holding on to that, waiting for the premium opportunity to do so. And now Enrique's got his Grimmsnarl, and he's got it in nice and safe, and he knows exactly what type of attacks are coming through. So this Reflect going to be really, really valuable in this turn.
Yeah, Reflect's going to help out with the incoming damage here as Groudon goes for the Rock Slide to see if it can catch that Landorus, but Landorus gets the heck out of dodge, goes ahead and uses that Fly, and Grimmsnarl unfortunately will be felled to that Rock Slide, but there does give Chinwei an opening to bring in another Pokemon that would put him in a better position versus this Groudon and this Grimmsnarl on Enrique's side.
It's taken us a long time to get to the first knockout of the game, and it does go Enrique's way, so really nicely done there to just kind of keep things moving, probably feeling pretty good about the board position, and is going to have those Reflects and Light Screens running a little bit longer in this game. You know, both trainers settling on the Grimmsnarl, knowing how important it can be, but being able to bust through that, probably with the help of the Swords Dance as well, that was set up really, really nicely done. You know, the Reflects are going to be an interesting choice as well. If the Reflect is going to help out, and a potential Light Screen, you know, for when that Venusaur arrives a little bit later on, could be helpful too. So this makes the decision making a little bit harder for Chinwei. You know, probably wants to try and find an opportunity to get the Venusaur in, especially while that sun is still up, is still going, and will have that speed advantage. Grimmsnarl, though, doesn't need the Light Screen this turn and takes advantage of that so nicely.
Yeah, the Scary Face. What a cool tech to see on that Grimmsnarl. That Groudon, though, going to take that Fly coming in from Landorus, which will bring it into Figgy Berry range, so will heal up a ton of that damage. But the Precipice Blades comes through, and this is exactly what Enrique was hoping for, to be able to knock out that Zacian and that Scary Face, doing so much to make sure that that Groudon would be able to connect that attack.
Scary Face, kind of a straight up counter to the Zacian right there. The Zacian's so reliant on its high speed, you know, being able to move first and pick things off with Behemoth Blades and Sacred Swords, just completely ignoring that aspect of it, just saying, you know what, I'm not even worried. I'm just going to be able to set things up exactly how I want them. I'm going to make you slower, and I'm going to catch you with the Precipice Blades. I think if the Precipice Blades misses, that turn gets a little bit dangerous, but I do like how that one played out. Chinwei now forced down to his last 2 Pokemon, and what's interesting is one of them is the Venusaur, and Enrique still has all 4 Pokemon available. With those 4 Pokemon, he can really control the weather, so maybe he can just look to pick off the Venusaur, and then once that's gone, let the sun go and let his Venusaur do what it needs to do. That said, we've waited long enough from both of these trainers, and we're finally getting Dynamaxes.
Yeah, let's see that Gigantamax Venusaur in action. Something that Chinwei has absolutely prepared for when it came down to that Grimmsnarl using that Thunder Wave onto Enrique's Venusaur to force it into a position where it is not going to be the best Dynamax target anymore for the team. And instead, Enrique also going to be hitting the gas, and it's going to be that Groudon getting that Dynamax factor. So it's about time we got this party started, Adam.
Yeah, the Groudon's looking a lot better. You know, it was getting worn down, that berry activated, which has become pretty important now. And this Groudon thinking, well, I don't actually need the sun. You know, I have the Pokemon advantage. I'm just going to be able to beat you out anyway. And a nice light screen going up there from Grimmsnarl. I think that's really, really important to make sure that goes up in the face of this Venusaur. And if the Grimmsnarl can make it through this turn, you know, then the Grimmsnarl's going to be able to start landing stuff like the Scary Face and really reduce the impact of the, you know, the Venusaur. Kind of how Chinwei did to his with the Thunder Wave. Do exactly the same back with the Scary Face, because you're not going to be able to get rid of that. Of course, the Venusaur becomes a little more threatening with that special attack boost from the Max Ooze, but there's the power of the light screen, just not able to, you know, try and get through. I love this Scary Face play. Just going to make sure that Venusaur is really struggling to get a foothold in the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think that was really smart from Enrique to notice that, hey, you know, I don't have to reset the weather at all, because that gives Chinwei an advantage when it comes down to the speed game. But with that Scary Face as well, that Venusaur is not going to be able to move super quickly. In fact, it's going to be the Landorus that moves next, and now another Max Quake coming out from this Groudon to help with the special defense on Enrique's side. We saw the light screen. We're seeing the Max Quake now. That is a lot of special defense boosts, especially against this Gigantamax Venusaur.
Yeah, we'll see if the G-Max Vine Lash can get through. It cannot. The boosts, the light screen, even the special attack boost over on the side of Venusaur, not enough. This Groudon really going to struggle to get taken down. I think it might go down next turn to the G-Max Vine Lash, but, you know, it's going to be tough. This Groudon may get caught by the follow-up from Fly from this Landorus, but, you know, it's been doing so well so far, just clinging on, and, you know, you've got a lot going on. This Incineroar can definitely help out here. Love the Incineroar switch in. There's nothing else for Grimmsnarl to do. It's landed both its screens. It's got the Scary Face down. It's literally got nothing else to do in this game. Get the Incineroar in. Make sure the Intimidate is coming through. Unfortunately, you know, it's going to be really tight on this one. We'll see if Landorus can get it.
Yeah, the Fly is going to come down here, and it looks like the target was actually the Grimmsnarl. So Incineroar going to take that one instead, bringing it right down to its berry range. Going to be able to heal up a lot from that Citrus Berry, but that gives Groudon another chance to fire back, this time with a Max Rockfall right into the Landorus that has grounded itself from that Fly, and that is going to take it to about half and also change the weather. Let's see that Sandstorm.
Yeah, the Sandstorm's going to slowly wear things down. It's not going to be quite as impactful, of course, as the G-Max Vine Lash between turns. So impactful, it does pick up the knockout with the Ferocious Beating. So no final turn there. Oh, no, that would be the final turn of Dynamax anyway. So that does get all 3 turns, but at the end of it does fall down. The Incineroar, though, comes in, has access to a Fake Out in this turn. And there's the Reflect gone from the side of Chinwei. So with the Reflect gone, that means the light screen's about to go down as well, and that could mean that the Venusaur end game is an option here. You know, the Venusaur could try and come in. It's going to be at least tying with this Venusaur after all the drops and the paralyses and all that good stuff. So, you know, the Grimmsnarl's back in to start Scary Facing even more, and you can start racking up those Scary Faces and just make these remaining 2 the slowest things on the field.
I think that's exactly what Enrique should go for, especially knowing that his own Venusaur is paralyzed. You want to make sure that you are winning the speed game but you can also go for some pretty big damage here, knowing that those screens are expiring. Let's see that scary face first, though, going right into the Venusaur, and I really do feel that gives Enrique such a good position when it comes to bringing in his own Venusaur later.
Yeah, that's definitely making sure that he wins the Venusaur mirror. Has to be a little bit respectful of this Landorus, but not getting flinched there. A really big issue. That's the Venusaur dealt with, and now the Landorus is going to start getting slowed down as well by these constant scary faces. This Landorus, even you could switch out the Incineroar, try and bounce things around that way. Only one more scary face actually, because oh no, the Grimmsnarl's going down. There was no beating before that, so yep, that's gone. And now you're into this 2v1 situation. And you've still got the Reflect up. It's going to be 1v1 actually, with just the Venusaur paralyzed. But let's be real. What can the Landorus do? Light Screen does fall at the end of the turn there for Chinwei. So, the Venusaur just needs to hit an attack or two, and it'll be feeling pretty good. I mean, the Reflect is still up, don't forget, for this Venusaur to hide behind for a turn or two more. And, it's 2 more turns there on the Reflect. Feeling pretty good, in those 2 turns it can definitely find the damage. And looking over at the stats on that Landorus, it's down 2 stages of attack too, so it's really going to struggle even with these single target earthquakes.
Yeah, look how little that's going to do to Venusaur, and Venusaur can just heal back up so much of that damage with the Giga Drain. So this is definitely going to be a 1v1 I feel like Venusaur has the edge for.
Yeah, with the healing available for Venusaur, I don't see a way that Landorus can get through. Maybe a critical hit is needed here to try and weave it through. I do like the change up to Fly. That's certainly going to be, a little more super effective damage. Venusaur paralyzed, so it doesn't matter. It's not going to be able to attack. It's not going to have a target there anyway. Really needs this Fly to land. It's going to land after the Reflect though, so this could get a little tight for the Venusaur. We'll see how this one turns out. Of course, those 2 stages of dropped attack stat on the Landorus are going to make it a little more manageable, and we'll see just how this one can be played around. There's the Fly, not enough for the knockout. Enrique though getting caught. Oh, the weakness policy reveal.
Yeah, Enrique has given up so much critical information with the weakness policy on the Venusaur and the scary face on the Grimmsnarl, and I don't think that critical hit mattered. I think Venusaur is going to be able to knock out that Landorus no matter what, but Enrique taking the 1v1 in this game number 1 to go up 1 game in this series over Chinwei. What an exciting game number 1 of this series.
It was a slog, to be honest. Both trainers set up their screens, they dropped a bunch of stats, they boosted some stats as well. This was really, reminiscent of some earlier formats that we played where those stat boosts from the Dynamax moves or the max moves were just so important, and adding those boosts and those effects to the light screen, weaving in the classic Intimidate there as well. Really, really tough game for both trainers to find those big hits, find that big amount of damage, but the board positioning was so nicely done from Enrique. I do like that we managed to see the G-Max Vine Lash come through from Chinwei's side. That really helped out, that softened up a lot of targets, and obviously that number just ignores all of these screens. So that was probably some of the biggest damage we saw. It picked up a lot of knockouts, but the game management throughout the whole game was so nicely done from Enrique. Setting up his screens afterwards meant he had them running later into the game, and he didn't need them early in the game. He managed to also weave in that nice scary face as well. It was just such a nicely planned out game overall. Yes, was it a slower burn? It was. We've seen games in this tournament so far go fast, go furious. This one was all about positioning, and I really, really like to see players execute that perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of these players have gotten really good practice with how positioning needs to go, especially when you take a look at how the Series 10 format was going. But now, Enrique and Chinwei both held onto their Gigantamaxes for a really long time. They played around those reflects and light screens beautifully. And Chinwei, I feel like, even played that late game very, very well. There's not a whole lot of reason to have to play around a weakness policy Venusaur. So you definitely do exactly what you need to do, which is use the Fly the turn before you know that Reflect is going to expire, and then hope that you're going to be hitting that Venusaur for big damage, especially when you are down attack stats. But let's go ahead and get right into game number 2 of this series. Our first match of Losers Round 2 went the distance. Can this one do the same? Let's see the leads coming out from both of these trainers, as it looks like Chinwei is leading with the Venusaur and the Landorus, and for Enrique, it is a little bit more about support here. Grimmsnarl and Incineroar.
Very safe, very supportive lead from Enrique, but he played really well with those kind of setups in the games we've seen so far. I mean, getting the Grimmsnarl in nice and early, causing problems from turn number 1. Because the Venusaur, once again, on Chinwei's side, is lacking the sun, and unless the Torkoals come in the back, then there's no way to immediately set up the sun and go a little crazy with that chlorophyll ability activated. I imagine Enrique's got a combination in the back of Groudon and one of those potential Gigantamaxes in Charizard or Venusaur. Be curious to see which one he's bought. I think that's going to be a real indicator of how this game is going to be getting played out. But, you know, this Grimmsnarl actually just going for those screens nice and early, it looks like, from Enrique's side. Chinwei doesn't have the opportunity to set those up right now, and if he wants to get his screen set up, he's going to have to pivot around. If that pivot can be punished, or that pivot's just too slow, and all of the screens are set up, and Grimmsnarl can move on to something like the Scary Face, things could get very problematic.
Yeah, there's not really a clean way that Chinwei can do this except for Rust, which is either. So it is going to be that Venusaur going back into its Pokeball in favor of this Grimmsnarl. And Grimmsnarl means it's going to take the Fake Out coming out from Enrique's Incineroar. But here comes the Reflect. Here comes the Rock Slide back. And take a look at how little damage that's really going to do, even super effectively, onto the Incineroar.
And Reflect just putting in work from turn number 1. The Landorus has been such an interesting choice from Chinwei. We've seen it in previous formats absolutely dominate games, and players, top players from around the world, key into it, understand it, and really use it. Chinwei's has been staying in its regular form. It's not been Dynamaxing, and I think it loses out quite a lot there. I think Landorus is one of those Pokemon that relies maybe a little bit heavily on something like the Dynamax factor. There's confirmation that it is Groudon and a Charizard this time, so this definitely changes the focus from Enrique in this game. Deal with the Landorus early on, make sure you get rid of that, and then let the Charizard come in and run riot. The Zacian coming to the field right away. We'll see how that works out for Chinwei.
No, that's going to be so huge for Enrique. Let's go ahead and watch this turn play out, because I don't think Chinwei really wanted to do that switch here, because we are going to see this Reflect come through, but Zacian did just get that +1 attack boost, and Grimmsnarl used Foul Play right into the Zacian. I mean, it's not going to be super effective, but it's still doing more damage than what it would have if it was going to be onto that Landorus that was right there.
It's going to be doing a little bit of damage, and any damage really helps, but I think what's more important is Enrique gets the Groudon in on the same turn that Zacian comes in, and that's what you don't want to see as the Zacian. You do not want to see you're facing down against the Groudon. Now it gets a little bit tricky, right? You do want to see if you can weave your Venusaur in, take advantage of the sun that Enrique set up. There's confirmation once again that we don't have the Torkoal on Chinwei's side, so he's been relying on Enrique to bring that sun every single time, and he needs to find a way to get this Venusaur in, I think. If that's going to be the focal point of his team by being his Gigantamax, that needs to get in as soon as possible. But the Pokemon on the board from Enrique making that really, really tough. Zacian's staying in and just trying to keep safe. This is a good substitute to weave in.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that means that you can take this Precipice Blades without any damage to your actual health pool, but that's still a lot, because now take a look at where Zacian is sitting HP-wise. It is only sitting at about half, and so you're not going to be able to do a whole lot of substitutes to keep that Zacian safe, and if you're substituting, you're also not doing damage.
You're not doing damage, you're just buying time, and there's only so many turns that you can do that for in a game like this. Of course, a double critical hit off the Precipice Blades makes that Grimmsnarl look real easy to knock out in the following turns, no matter how many screens you put up. When you're that low, a Precipice Blades from a Groudon at full bore, you know, no Intimidate landing on that so far is going to mean the damage is really high, and that could force in something like the Landorus to come in, and if that Landorus can get in safely, that could start to cause problems from Chinwei's side. But, you know, if you can read into that, play around that, it is quite telegraphed. Enrique could be capitalizing on this one very, very quickly. He wants to see the Landorus anyway, because the Landorus is the Pokemon he wants to try and deal with, just so that Charizard can come in and play for free later in the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Precipice Blade's obviously going to be a little bit of a whiff and a miss here, as we do see the Protect on the Zacian, and of course that Landorus switching in, so not going to be doing anything there. But a good switch from Chinwei, I feel like, just to be able to get that Landorus in, start decreasing the amount of damage that Groudon is able to do. Maybe forcing Enrique into a position where he feels like he has to pivot around a little bit more. Good thing for him is Incineroar does have access to Parting Shot, which will help to control that damage even more and also give Enrique a really clean switch to something else.
This is why Incineroar rules the roost as one of the key reasons that Incineroar rules the roost as the Intimidator of choice, because the pivot option is so good on it. I know that, of course, you can land U-turns with the Landorus. It's a move that's been used in the past, but I really like just how quickly Incineroar can get in and out, and I think Parting Shot in general is just a little more useful. Getting attack and special attack drops, meaning whatever you bounce out off of is going to be significantly weakened for the following turns. This is what I was looking for from the Landorus, though, something that we hadn't seen quite yet from Chinwei in this tournament. Throwing it up as the Dynamax, it really needs to show off what it can do in this game. What could be important is potentially setting up something like those, I mean, it's already the fastest thing on the field, but Speed Boost could always help out just to make up for a potential Scary Face later in the game.
Yeah, Behemoth Blade coming through onto the Groudon. Not going to do a whole lot of damage there, but it's the max airstreams from this Landorus that are really going to help potentially turn the tables. It does provide a speed boost to the Zacian and the Landorus, and brings that Groudon into a pretty scary amount of HP, but thanks to its berry, we'll be able to heal up so that it can potentially survive another attack.
Yeah, Groudon, though, knew that it can take that and is just so focused on getting rid of this Zacian. The Precipice Blades, though, not enough. Those Intimidates and all this goings-on early in the game really costing it quite heavily. The Parting Shot, though, bouncing out, making sure that the attacks are staying nice and low, and maybe giving Groudon a little bit of a reprieve later in the game. The Grimmsnarl coming in, I really like here. You know, if Groudon needs to find room for another attack, the Grimmsnarl may be able to help out a lot with the Scary Phase. So nicely done. The Incineroar being able to bounce out for free. The Groudon maybe just let something get a little bit slower. Of course, another max airstream would completely neutralize the effects of that Scary Face. But, you know, we'll see exactly how this Grimmsnarl wants to play it out. The Grimmsnarl's been important for both, and Enrique's used his so well.
Yeah, I like that Enrique is just going for some damage here with the Grimmsnarl. Obviously, foul play right now. You know, the attack is a little bit lowered on the Landorus and the Zacian, so you're not going to be doing a whole lot of damage with this foul play. But I also really like that Enrique is switching out the Groudon in order to preserve it for later. It's been on the field for a while, which means the sun has also been up for quite some time. Knowing that that's going to expire soon and that Charizard is in the back, Enrique is very much banking on making sure that Charizard is going to be able to do enough work when the time comes to do that.
Yeah, the Charizard really needs to be in a premium position, and getting rid of both of these Pokemon on the field would really help it, because then it would just be facing down Venusaur Grimmsnarl, which is exactly what it wants to see. That said, though, I mean, everything coming out from Chinwei really wanted to deal with what was that Groudon. Is so scared of it based off what it can do. I mean, we've been talking about it all day, how impactful the Groudon can be. Just really pushing forward, and again, a double target into that slot, just not enough, as Incineroar taking it pretty well compared to that Groudon would.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw the original Intimidate, the Parting Shot, another Intimidate as the Incineroar switches back in. Enrique is handling the damage output of this Zacian and this Landorus super well. Yeah, that foul play not going to do a whole lot there, but
it's a tough one, right? You want to foul play, you want to put damage down if you've got nothing else you think is important, but you're also very focused, and Enrique has been throughout this whole game, on lowering the attack stats. So it gets a little awkward when you're trying to get your damage with foul play. It's usually more of a punish that you'd use after something like a Swords Dance. But Enrique just saying, well, a little bit of chip's better than nothing. I don't need the Scary Face in this turn. I'm not trying to capitalize off it. Maybe looking to set it up for a little bit later. You know, those airstreams have been coming through, so both of them have been getting speed boosts, both the Landorus and the Zacian. The Zacian leaving though and sacrificing those, maybe a little bit worried about what this Incineroar is able to do to it.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl, nice target onto the Landorus here just to be able to get rid of the max airstream boost that it had acquired before. But Landorus now going to be able to go with a max Quake right into the Incineroar. That damage control, so good for Enrique and really working out for him to allow that Incineroar to survive.
being able to mitigate the damage through how Enrique's been playing this game is so good, and this throws me back to years past where people would have double intimidates on their team. They switch out one intimidator for another. This feels very much the same way, right? Just switching out the intimidator with a parting shot gives you the same effect, and it also catches special attackers. So a nice bit of modern innovation, if you will, from Enrique. I mean, a lot of players have been doing it, and finally he does give up the reveal on the Charizard here. Gives up that reveal though right after the Landorus has been taken out of its Dynamax form. It got decent value out of its 3 turns, but some of that value, the speed boost's been taken away.
Yeah, at this point too, if Chinwei really wants to be able to pressure down that Charizard, I feel like Landorus is one of the best options on the team to be able to do that, and you need to reset its attack stats. That's why you're going to see Chinwei go ahead and remove that Landorus from the field to be able to get that reset, bring in Venusaur instead. And this is a really, really nice jockey for position that we're seeing from both of these players in order to make sure that they are both set up for this endgame. Enrique, I feel like just trailing ahead just a little bit here, but you know, I think it's all about to change. I think we're about to see some really big momentum.
Nice protect there to block the Thunder Wave. That's really important. The Incineroar coming in provides a little bit of that fake out pressure as well that we all love so much. And just really trying to keep things safe. I mean, that Landorus was forced out. There was no way that the Landorus could stay in at that point. It had taken so many attack drops. It had to leave the field. And I like this from Enrique, finally using the fake out, realizing just how important this Incineroar can be. The big concern right now is make sure the Thunder Wave doesn't get going. If the Thunder Wave lands, you're in trouble. And the Grimmsnarl, you know, we know how Grimmsnarls are built. You know there's no protect there. So this is a pretty safe fake out. The other option, you know, is Grimmsnarl leaves the field, and then whatever comes in is really going to just get caught by a big chunk of damage. In this case, the Landorus, yeah, it's got its attack stat back. It is going to land an Intimidate of its own, show Incineroar what for. But how much damage is it going to take to do that?
Yeah, we'll see the fake out connect onto the Landorus. Charizard does go for that Heat Wave. It will connect onto both Pokemon. Not going to do enough to knock out that Venusaur. But what I feel like was really intelligent about Enrique here was not Dynamaxing, because that Venusaur's Sleep Powder is going to land onto that Charizard. And also, that Landorus is now in, which is putting a lot of pressure onto that Charizard.
This Charizard not looking in the best position. I mean, asleep as soon as it comes into the field. Didn't get the knockout with Heat Wave. And yeah, I like that Enrique kept the fake out pressure down on Incineroar, but Chinwei played that smartly, said I'm going to get faked out anyway. You can have that slot, but just let my Venusaur Sleep Powder. So things do get a little trickier for, of course, the Charizard now. Guaranteed a turn of sleep. Can't be sitting in there and just chilling out while it's going to be facing down against the Landorus with the Rock Slide. That's going to be a problem, and that forces Enrique into this tricky situation where you have to be switching around. Where you switch, what you do, really, really important here. And looking at the way he selected his Pokemon, the sun is going to be a factor. Weirdly enough, though, Chinwei says, I'm not expecting the sun just yet. I want to know the sun is there later on, and getting that Groudon in a little bit later.
Pokemon get switched on the field. We've got Grimmsnarl and Groudon now for Enrique and Chinwei, bringing the Zacian back in. What does this Landorus decide to do? It goes for the Rock Slide. It's going to connect onto both Pokemon. Still not doing very much at all. But I feel like now Enrique has done a lot to be able to preserve the Intimidate, preserve the Fake Out, and more importantly, preserve that Charizard for when the big threats on Chinwei's team are removed.
I would not be shocked to see the Incineroar come back in. This is the perfect time to see the Incineroar, right? It's you're looking down to physical attackers. It has access to the fake out the turn after that, so maybe saving it for next turn, letting his Grimmsnarl do a little bit more and more switches. Both trainers so desperate to make sure their board position is at all times perfect. There's still not been a knockout in this game.
Not yet. We're getting closer, but not yet. We're going to see a really nice safe play from both of these trainers. Enrique's Groudon going for the Protect, Chinwei's Zacian as well. And I feel like that just gives Chinwei a lot of information, knowing that that Scary Face was coming that Zacian's way. But the good news here is that I feel like Groudon in Enrique's position is very well set up to go for some type of attack here. Chinwei is forced to either switch out the Zacian, which is exactly what he's going to do, or just kind of give up something else. Obviously, that Landorus is not going to take the Precipice Blades damage and will, in fact, lower Groudon's attack, but What about this Grimmsnarl?
Well, the Grimmsnarl probably needs to look to try and set up another Reflector. There it is. Just making sure that those Precipice Blades are weakened. You know, now Chinwei is kind of doing exactly to Enrique what Enrique did to him, finding that physical attacker in the ground type, funnily enough, and just targeting it down aggressively with Intimidate, making sure that its attacks do less, and making sure that you're also attacking into a Reflect. That said, the Reflect was the last thing Grimmsnarl's going to be doing on the field, as it finally gets felled by this Groudon, even after the Intimidate and the Reflect.
I think that was a good thing for the Grimmsnarl to do, right? It did what it needed to do. I think it's okay going down in this position, and now Chinwei is able to get in something else that is going to be more impactful after that setup has concluded, and looks like it's going to be that Zacian coming in and just trying to put on as much offensive pressure as possible. That Groudon on Enrique's side is not going to be dishing out too much damage. It's already received an Intimidate, the Reflect is up, so what can Enrique really do here?
I mean, Enrique's still in a decent position. It has the Grimmsnarl on the board next to the Groudon. Already landed a Scary Face onto the Landorus. So that Landorus is nice and slow. If you can land a Scary Face, of course, onto the Zacian as well, you're going to be in a good position. And, of course, something we hadn't touched on for a little while because it's been so long since we saw one, Enrique's able to throw out his Dynamax here. And I think the combination of Scary Face Grimmsnarl and the Dynamax Groudon, as long as you're targeting spot on, could be in a good position. I mean, needs to get a little more damage out, is, of course, going into the Reflect, has been intimidated, so bring up the power of those moves and try and bust through some of these defenses. The Zacian, protecting once again, does not wish to get Scary Faced in the slightest.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it more, Adam, I actually really like this choice of Max coming out from Enrique, because Charizard is asleep right now. It's not going to be really doing a whole lot, and even when it comes back out onto the field, it still has to live through those sleep turns in order to actually be in a position to Gigantamax or put out some damage here. But Earthquake now coming through, it's going to be able to connect onto the Grimmsnarl and the Groudon. They're both going to survive this, but Enrique here is just kind of seeing an opportunity and taking it in terms of, well, you know, yeah, my Groudon's not at max attack at the moment, but it's still going to be able to do a lot in terms of chunking down these two big threats on Chinwei's side.
And the combination Scary Face as well is really smart here. I mean, just targeting down that slot aggressively, probably feeling pretty good. There's the notification actually that there's 3 minutes until the battle ends, something you know, we don't usually see in these games and in these formats. But now this combination of just ignoring the Landorus for a little bit because you're not so worried about it, really, really good. Landorus has to be careful, of course, with its Earthquaking. Can't do that next to an unprotected Zacian. And that, you know, the Venusaur just getting caught on the way in. Enrique keeping a very significant Pokemon advantage going in this game, even though this Groudon was targeted down, was getting its stats lowered. You know, the Earthquakes just aren't bringing it low enough, and it can really target whatever it wants after the Scary Faces had landed. The Grimmsnarl's finally gone, so the Zacian's going to be asked to put in a lot of work, but the Zacian, you know, could be asked to try and get through 3 of these Pokemon if this Landorus falls, and the Landorus may fall pretty quickly because it's now stuck on the field with its Scary Face drop.
Yeah, Landorus is going to be stuck on the field. The Zacian is still here, though. But what I really love about this choice from Enrique to be able to bring in this Incineroar is something's going to get faked out. You know, you have a ton of pressure now with that fake out from the Incineroar that I feel like Enrique is in such a good position to keep that Pokemon advantage heading into the last couple minutes of this game.
Also, the Zacian is very, very low. You know, I know the Groudon's been taking a lot of damage and has had its stats lowered a little bit earlier on. But if you can land the Max Quake, you know, you're still going to be attacking through the Protect. You know, you're still going to get some damage down, which means it can be picked up by pretty much anything remaining on the team. And this Landorus has, you know, started to eat up Intimidates again. The Landorus could, if it doesn't deal with this Incineroar properly or gets dealt with by the Incineroar, the Landorus, quite honestly, could just end up in the position it was earlier in the game, where its attack is just dangerously low, and it's just not able to do enough. Of course, it would like to see that Charizard, it would like to pick that off, you know, but it's still got to be careful on how it's throwing out these attacks.
Well, this is the last minute of the battle. That fake out does connect onto the Zacian, and Groudon goes for the Max Quake. It will be able to knock out this Zacian, so that does mean Chinwei only has one Pokemon left, and it is going to be that Landorus. But Landorus still has a chance to fire back before the game ends. Let's go ahead and see what it's going to do here. And it is going to be a Rock Slide, which connects onto both Pokemon. It does get the Incineroar, but the Groudon survives.
Probably needed to go Earthquake there, and this is the conundrum that you get faced with when you're playing with the Landorus without it being Dynamax. You know, knew he probably needed something out of the Zacian, was hoping that maybe the Landorus, you know, would get intimidated, knew, of course, with the timer running down that Chinwei had to play this one out, had to find 2 knockouts, and was maybe thinking, okay, maybe there's going to be a switch in. Enrique's going to play this one safe and give me the Charizard to avoid the Earthquake, so he still keeps a Pokemon advantage. But it's 2-1. The timer is run down. The battle has ended. I mean, they're into the move times, the yaw times. But just take a look at that. 2-1 wraps this one up on timer, something we don't frequently see here in VGC, but nice board positioning on that last turn, just carving out the advantage. If, you know, maybe